will you mark further? Not, Senator McCrory. Good evening, good afternoon, sir. Senator McCrory, please.
Test.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam President. Madam President, I rise in support of this legislation. I want to thank everyone who did a yeoman's work on this piece of legislation to help out with this opioid epidemic that is destroying our communities, not just in the state of Connecticut, but all over the United States. Early this morning, I saw that the Attorney General from Ohio is actually suing some pharmaceutical companies who actually produce some of these drugs. And I'm very excited, and I'm going to be excited when I press that letter green to support this work that everyone has done. But I just want to remind everyone that this is not the first time we had a crisis, a drug crisis in our country, and especially in our state. And I'm so happy that we are finally seeing that this issue of substance abuse is more of a public health issue as opposed to a criminal issue. Because there was a time not too long ago when people were suffering from substance abuse, such as heroin, crack cocaine. We threw them in jail. We didn't provide the supports that we're doing right now. We looked at them and said they didn't have family values. They wasn't raising their children right. They were not making good decisions. So finally in 2017, I am very happy to say that we have come full circle and realize the things that we did in the past, that destroyed communities in the past, that destroyed families in the past, that deformed neighborhoods in the past, and we're still dealing with those issues today, that we're not going to allow that to happen as we move forward. So in retrospect, I wish we had this conversation 25 years ago. I wish I was here to make these statements 25 years. I wasn't. But I know as we move forward, your children and my children, our children will have the public health support that we didn't have. Instead of mass incarcerating families, children, neighborhoods, mothers, fathers, grandmothers, as we did in the past. So I'll proudly press this green button so we can help everyone as we move forward, but can't forget about what we did in the past and issues that we're still dealing with from the past. Thank you very much.
Senator Law.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam President. I want to align myself with the comments of Senator Doug McCrory. You know, I've never touched any sort of drug for a very good reason. One, my father was a drug addict, and two, there was a show that used to come on when I was a kid called Like It Is, and I used to watch the heroin addicts that they would put on this show and what heroin did to them. And that's like 40 years ago. And we're here today dealing with the opioid crisis, which is the same problem. You know, when we do some of the bills that some of us from the urban communities try to do here, one of the things I hear, and I think people are well-meaning, but one of the things that I hear people say is, well, we don't have that issue in my community. You will. 40 years later, maybe, but you will. We come here, we're not just representing our communities, those fictive boundaries that are drawn on a map. We're representing all of the people in this state. If you don't have the issue today, if it's not somebody who you know, it will be. And I hope we learn the lesson that is inherent in this discussion that we're having today to do this good piece of policy that we're doing. And that lesson is you will have that problem. So I rise in support of this bill. And I hope that 40 years down the road, something that we're trying to work on today is not something that someone else will rise and say, you will have that problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. It's a pleasure to stand up and rise and support this bill. But I would like to align my comments with those of my colleagues, Senator McCrory and Senator Winfield. For 21 years of my working life, I worked inside Connecticut's prison system. I would say, quite frankly, that the opioid problem has been around for that entire time that I worked inside our prison system. I'm happy that we're facing this and working on it now, but I saw a lot of intelligent young people who spent their lives in and out of our correctional system because of opioid addictions. And I think it should be recognized that this legislation is a long time coming. It should have been recognized as a crisis as it wielded its way through our urban areas. It's been long there, and for too many years, too many families have lost brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, grandchildren to an addiction that was ignored. I will happily push the green button today, as Senator McCrory said, but I lament the lives that have been lost as a result of an addiction that has long been in Connecticut. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you.